Hollywood churned out hundreds of World War II films, but which ones actually get the nod from the men who lived it? We surveyed veterans and active service members to find the movies that don't just entertain, but tell the truth. Some will shock you with their brutal honesty. Others made grown soldiers weep in theaters. They were expendable, 1945. John Wayne couldn't even salute properly, and John Ford made sure everyone knew it. This PT boat drama hit theaters while the war wounds were still fresh, and director Ford used every take to humiliate Wayne for dodging the draft. Robert Montgomery, who actually commanded PT boats in the Pacific, directed scenes when Ford got injured. The movie follows the doomed defense of the Philippines, where small patrol boats fought impossible odds against the Japanese war machine. Veterans love it because it skips the Hollywood heroics and shows what defeat looks like up close. Ford shot the film while still serving as a Navy captain, donating his entire salary to a veterans recreation center. Critics called it one of the most powerful war dramas ever made. Veterans read the title in their own bitter experience. They really were expendable, left behind to buy time for the bigger picture. Montgomery's quiet authority and Wayne's unusually vulnerable performance created something that feels documentary real. The film bombed at the box office because audiences were war-weary by 1945, but veterans kept watching it on late-night TV for decades afterward. Battleground, 1949. 20 actual veterans of Bastogne trained the actors and appeared as extras in this MGM masterpiece. Writer Robert Piroche fought in the real Battle of the Bulge, and he made sure every frozen breath felt authentic. The film follows one squad of the 101st Airborne trapped in the Belgian snow, with dwindling supplies and German propaganda echoing through the fog. What veterans praise most is the psychological accuracy of scared men doing their duty. Van Johnson cracks eggs in his helmet only to get pulled away for another assignment, letting the yolk drip uselessly into the snow. James Whitmore's grizzled sergeant keeps the squad together through pure stubbornness and military pride. Several cast members were actual World War II veterans, including Whitmore, who served with the Marines at Saipan, and James Arness, who earned a Bronze Star at Anzio. Director William Wellman shot the entire movie on an MGM soundstage with one wall knocked out for realistic weather effects. Veterans consistently rank this above Saving Private Ryan for its authentic squad dynamics and the way soldiers actually talk when death is breathing down their necks. The film won 2 Oscars and became the studio's biggest hit in 5 years. One veteran reviewer said the conversations between humor and deep thoughts were dead-on accurate for infantry units. The best years of our lives, 1946. This post-war masterpiece nailed what every veteran dreads, coming home. Harold Russell, a double amputee veteran who wasn't even an actor, played Homer Parrish and became the only person in history to win 2 Oscars for the same role. Released just 1 year after VJ Day, the film follows 3 servicemen struggling to readjust to civilian life after years of combat. Russell lost both hands in a training accident and learned to use prosthetic hooks specifically for the film. Director William Wyler, who flew bombing missions over Europe, understood the psychological wreckage of war. Veterans still quote this movie when talking about the invisible wounds that don't heal. Frederick March's alcoholic banker can't explain why he gave loans to risky veterans instead of safe investments. Dana Andrews' decorated bombardier can't find work and ends up behind a soda fountain. The film's nearly 3-hour runtime allows each character to slowly unravel their wartime trauma. Veterans love how it shows the gap between civilian expectations and military reality. Families wanted their heroes back, but they got strangers instead. The movie swept the Academy Awards and became one of the highest-grossing films of the 1940s. Even today, veterans organizations use clips from this film to explain PTSD and reintegration challenges. The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957. British POWs versus Japanese captors in Thailand, and Nobody Wins. Alec Guinness plays a colonel so obsessed with military protocol that he helps the enemy build a railway bridge, then realizes his mistake too late. Veterans appreciate the film's complex morality, where there are no clear heroes, just men trying to maintain dignity under impossible conditions. Director David Lean spent months researching actual POW experiences and the real Burma railway construction. William Holden's commando mission to destroy the bridge creates the film's central tension. Guinness refused to simply play the colonel as insane, instead showing how military discipline can become its own form of madness. The famous whistling of Colonel Bogey March became a cultural touchstone that veterans still recognize instantly. The film's technical achievements in bridge construction and destruction impressed military engineers. Veterans praise how it shows the psychological toll of captivity without glorifying either side. Jack Hawkins' medical officer represents the moral center, torn between duty and survival. The movie earned 7 Oscar nominations and won 7, including Best Picture. Veterans consistently rank it among the most realistic depictions of prisoner of war psychology and the breaking points of military honor under extreme stress. Saving Private Ryan, 1998. The Omaha beach sequence left World War II veterans sobbing in theaters and walking out to compose themselves. Steven Spielberg consulted extensively with D-Day survivors to create the most visceral 27 minutes of combat ever filmed. Tom Hanks's Captain Miller leads a squad behind enemy lines to find one paratrooper whose 3 brothers have been killed in action. Veterans praise the film's unflinching portrayal of combat chaos and the randomness of death. Spielberg used no stunt doubles for the beach landing, instead relying on amputee actors and practical effects. The sound design deliberately muffles dialogue during explosions to simulate battlefield hearing loss. Veterans love how the film shows leadership under pressure without making heroes seem superhuman. Matt Damon's Private Ryan questions whether he's worth the sacrifice of Miller's entire squad. The movie sparked renewed interest in World War II history and led to increased veterans benefits legislation. Veterans organizations use the film in therapy sessions to help survivors process their experiences. Dale Dye, a Vietnam veteran, trained the actors in military protocol and insisted on realistic weapon handling. The film earned over $480 million worldwide and won 5 Academy Awards. Veterans consistently rank it as the most accurate depiction of small unit infantry combat. In Harm's Way, 1965. John Wayne and Kirk Douglas play Navy officers struggling with demotions, heavy drinking, and personal demons in the Pacific Theater. Veterans chose this film for its unglamorous portrayal of command decisions and the human cost of military leadership. Patricia Neal and Burgess Meredith round out a cast dealing with moral ambiguity rather than clear-cut heroism. Douglas's character commits assault, leading to tragic consequences that ripple through the entire narrative. The film opens with the Pearl Harbor attack and follows the Navy's desperate early months when defeat seemed inevitable. Veterans appreciate how it shows the confusion and chaos of early wartime when protocols broke down daily. Wayne's character makes impossible choices between military necessity and personal conscience. Director Otto Preminger shot the film in black and white to emphasize the moral grayness of wartime decisions. Veterans praise the realistic portrayal of how officers dealt with impossible situations and limited resources. The film addresses alcoholism, family breakdown, and the psychological pressure of command responsibility. Naval veterans specifically cite the authentic shipboard atmosphere and chain of command tensions. Despite its grim subject matter, the film became a box office success and earned critical acclaim. Veterans consistently mention its realistic portrayal of how war destroys personal relationships and moral certainties. Letters from Ewima, 2006. Clint Eastwood flipped the script and showed World War II from the Japanese perspective, earning praise from both American and Japanese veterans. The film follows General Kuribayashi's doomed defense of Iwo Jima against overwhelming American forces. Veterans appreciate the universal humanity of soldiers, regardless of uniform or nationality. Eastwood shot the film entirely in Japanese, with subtitles to maintain authenticity. The movie shows Japanese soldiers dreaming of home while facing certain death, just like their American counterparts. Veterans praise how it avoids propaganda and focuses on individual soldiers caught in an impossible situation. Ken Watanabe's commanding performance as Kuribayashi shows a leader trying to prepare his men for inevitable defeat. The film's companion piece, Flags of Our Fathers, was less successful because it focused more on American war culture than individual soldiers. Veterans consistently mention how the film helped them understand the enemy they fought. The movie earned critical acclaim and multiple Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. Eastwood's decision to show both sides of the battle created a more complete picture of warfare. Veterans groups used the film to discuss the universal experience of combat and loss. Go for Broke, 1951. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team gets their due in this Van Johnson drama about Japanese-American soldiers proving their loyalty on European battlefields. Veterans appreciate the film's honest portrayal of racial prejudice within the military ranks. The real 442nd became the most decorated unit in American military history, earning over 18,000 individual decorations. The film follows Lieutenant Michael Grayson training the unit at Camp Shelby before deploying to France and Italy. Veterans praise how it shows the double burden these soldiers carried, fighting both the enemy and discrimination from their own side. Many of the actors were actual veterans of the 442nd, adding authenticity to the performances. The unit's motto, "Go for Broke," came from Hawaiian pidgin, meaning to risk everything. Veterans consistently cite this film when discussing military integration and the contributions of minority soldiers. Director Robert Pirosh, who also wrote Battleground, brought his infantry experience to the production. The film addresses the internment of Japanese-American families while their sons fought overseas. Veterans appreciate how it shows courage coming in different forms and colors. The movie's box office success helped change Hollywood's approach to depicting minority contributions to the war effort. Veterans still recommend this film for its authentic portrayal of unit cohesion across racial lines. Fury, 2014. Brad Pitt's tank commander leads an outgunned Sherman crew through the final months of the European War. Veterans praise the film's attention to mechanical detail and the claustrophobic reality of armored warfare. Director David Ayer used authentic Tiger and Sherman tanks during production, creating realistic vehicle combat. The film shows the brutality required to survive tank versus tank combat in the war's closing stages. Veterans appreciate how it depicts the psychological cost of mechanized warfare on crew members. Shia LaBeouf reportedly didn't shower during the entire shoot to replicate frontline conditions. The movie's final battle in a disabled tank surrounded by German infantry impressed veterans with its tactical accuracy. Logan Lerman's character represents the transformation from civilian to soldier under extreme pressure. Veterans consistently mention the authentic interior shots of tank operations and the crew dynamics under stress. The film avoids romanticizing tank warfare, instead showing it as dirty, dangerous, and dehumanizing. Tank veterans specifically praise the realistic portrayal of maintenance, ammunition handling, and communication procedures. The movie earned over $211 million worldwide and critical acclaim for its technical authenticity. Veterans recommend it for understanding the psychological pressure of armored combat crews. The Longest Day, 1962. This epic recreation of D-Day features multiple perspectives from American, British, German, and French forces during the invasion. Veterans chose it for its comprehensive approach to the largest amphibious assault in history. The all-star international cast includes John Wayne, Sean Connery, Henry Fonda, and Robert Mitchum. Veterans appreciate the film's attention to tactical details and the coordination required for the invasion. The movie shows simultaneous actions across multiple beaches and behind enemy lines. Director Ken Anakin consulted extensively with D-Day veterans to ensure historical accuracy. Veterans praise how it shows the confusion and improvisation required when detailed plans immediately fell apart. The film's 3-hour runtime allows for proper development of the massive logistical undertaking. Veterans consistently mention the realistic portrayal of airborne drops and beach assaults under heavy fire. The movie earned critical acclaim and multiple Oscar nominations for its ambitious scope. German veterans also praised the film for its fair portrayal of Wehrmacht defenders. Veterans organizations still use clips from this film to explain combined arms operations and joint warfare. The film's success led to increased interest in World War II history and veterans' oral history projects. Hacksaw Ridge, 2016. Desmond Doss proves that heroism comes in many forms when he saves 75 men at Okinawa without carrying a weapon. Veterans love this true story of a conscientious objector who earned the Medal of Honor through pure courage. Andrew Garfield's portrayal of the Seventh-day Adventist medic shows faith under fire without preaching. Veterans appreciate the film's authentic depiction of the brutal Pacific Theater combat. Director Mel Gibson used practical effects and minimal CGI to create realistic battle sequences. The film shows how Doss overcame ridicule and harassment from his own unit to prove his worth. Veterans praise the accurate portrayal of battlefield medicine and evacuation procedures under enemy fire. The movie's battle scenes capture the intensity of Japanese defensive positions and American assault tactics. Veterans consistently mention the authentic equipment, uniforms, and weapons used throughout the production. The film earned multiple Oscar nominations and brought renewed attention to lesser-known Medal of Honor recipients. Veterans with medical training specifically praised the realistic portrayal of combat first aid and triage procedures. The movie's success led to increased recognition for conscientious objectors who served in combat roles. Veterans recommend it for showing courage that doesn't require killing. Platoon, 1986. Oliver Stone drew from his own Vietnam experience to create this infantry squad drama set in 1967. Veterans appreciate the realistic portrayal of small unit dynamics and the moral ambiguity of modern warfare. Charlie Sheen's character represents the naive recruit transformed by combat experience. Veterans praise the authentic dialogue and the way soldiers actually interact under stress. The film shows the division between career soldiers and draftees within the same unit. Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe represent opposing philosophies of survival and humanity in warfare. Veterans consistently mention the realistic portrayal of equipment, tactics, and living conditions in the field. Stone's script captures the exhaustion, fear, and confusion of infantry combat without glorifying violence. The movie earned multiple Oscar wins, including Best Picture and Best Director. Veterans appreciate how it shows the internal conflicts within military units under pressure. The film's success helped change Hollywood's approach to depicting modern warfare. Veterans consistently rank it among the most accurate depictions of ground combat in any war. The movie sparked national conversations about veterans' treatment and post-traumatic stress disorder. Das Boot 181. Wolfgang Petersen's claustrophobic submarine epic follows a German U-boat crew during the Battle of the Atlantic. Veterans appreciate the technical accuracy and the universal experience of men trapped in a metal tube under the ocean. The film shows warfare from the German perspective without glorifying Nazi ideology. Veterans praise the realistic portrayal of submarine operations, maintenance, and crew psychology under extreme stress. Jürgen Prochno's captain represents professional competence struggling against impossible odds. The movie's 149-minute runtime creates genuine claustrophobia and tension for viewers. Veterans consistently mention the authentic submarine interior details and operational procedures. The film shows how modern warfare affects both sides equally in terms of fear, exhaustion, and human cost. Naval veterans specifically praise the realistic portrayal of damage control and emergency procedures. The movie earned multiple Oscar nominations and international critical acclaim. Veterans appreciate how it humanizes the enemy without excusing their cause. The film's success led to increased interest in naval warfare and submarine history. Veterans recommend it for understanding the psychological pressure of underwater warfare. The Big Red One, 1980. Samuel Fuller drew from his own infantry experience to create this episodic journey through multiple theaters of war. Veterans appreciate the film's authentic portrayal of soldiers who survive by adapting to each new battlefield. Lee Marvin's Grizzled Sergeant represents the professional soldier who keeps his squad alive through experience and instinct. The film follows the 1st Infantry Division from North Africa to Sicily to Normandy to Germany. Veterans praise the realistic depiction of how combat veterans actually behave between battles. Fuller's script avoids traditional war movie heroics in favor of authentic survival tactics. Mark Hamill and the young soldiers represent the constant influx of replacements in veteran units. Veterans consistently mention the film's accurate portrayal of equipment, tactics, and soldier behavior. The movie shows how war becomes routine and how soldiers cope with constant death and destruction. Veterans appreciate the film's honest depiction of liberation of concentration camps and the moral complexity of occupation duty. Fuller's personal experience with the 1st Infantry Division adds authenticity to every scene. The film earned critical acclaim for its unique approach to depicting the soldier's experience. Veterans recommend it for understanding how professional soldiers adapt to changing combat conditions. Apocalypse Now, 1979. Francis Ford Coppola's Vietnam Odyssey divided veterans but earned respect for its psychological accuracy about warfare's effect on the human mind. Veterans appreciate the film's surreal approach to depicting the insanity of modern conflict. Martin Sheen's journey upriver represents every soldier's descent into the moral ambiguity of warfare. Veterans praise the authentic helicopter sequences and Robert Duvall's unforgettable cavalry officer. The film shows how warfare creates its own reality separate from civilian understanding. Veterans consistently mention the realistic portrayal of command breakdown and mission confusion in asymmetric warfare. Marlon Brando's Colonel Kurtz represents the logical conclusion of warfare without moral boundaries. The movie's production troubles and location shooting in the Philippines added authenticity to the jungle warfare sequences. Veterans appreciate how it captures the disconnection between stated mission objectives and battlefield reality. The film earned multiple Oscar nominations and changed how Hollywood approached depicting modern warfare. Veterans with experience in unconventional warfare specifically praised the film's psychological accuracy. The movie sparked national debates about American military involvement and the nature of modern conflict. Veterans recommend it for understanding the psychological cost of prolonged combat operations. Full Metal Jacket, 1987. Stanley Kubrick's 2-part structure shows military transformation from boot camp to urban combat in Vietnam. Veterans appreciate the realistic portrayal of Marine Corps training and the dehumanization required to create soldiers. R. Lee Ermey's drill instructor performance became the gold standard for depicting military training. The film's first half shows how civilian recruits become Marines through psychological breakdown and rebuilding. Veterans praise the authentic dialogue and the accurate portrayal of military indoctrination techniques. The second half follows the same characters through the Tet Offensive urban combat in Hughes City. Veterans consistently mention the realistic portrayal of street fighting and the confusion of urban warfare. Kubrick's attention to detail in weapons, uniforms, and tactics impressed military consultants. The film shows how military training both prepares and fails to prepare soldiers for actual combat. Veterans appreciate the contrast between the controlled environment of training and the chaos of warfare. The movie earned critical acclaim and multiple award nominations for its unflinching approach. Veterans specifically praise the accurate portrayal of Marine Corps culture and hierarchy. The film's influence on subsequent war movies and military recruiting cannot be overstated. Band of Brothers, 2001. This HBO miniseries follows Easy Company from D-Day through the end of the war in Europe. Veterans appreciate the long-form format that allows for proper character development and realistic pacing. The series combines individual stories with larger historical events to create a complete picture of infantry warfare. Veterans praise the attention to historical accuracy and the consultation with actual Easy Company survivors. Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg's production created the gold standard for depicting small unit cohesion and leadership. The series shows how men form bonds that last beyond the war itself. Veterans consistently mention the realistic portrayal of combat stress, casualties, and replacement procedures. The Bastogne episode specifically impressed veterans with its authentic depiction of siege warfare. Veterans appreciate how the series shows the administrative and logistical aspects of warfare alongside combat sequences. The production's use of actual locations and period equipment added authenticity throughout. Veterans with airborne experience specifically praise the realistic portrayal of paratrooper operations and equipment. The series won multiple Emmy Awards and became the benchmark for historical television drama. Veterans recommend it as the most complete depiction of the American infantry experience in World War II. Come and See, 1985. Soviet director Elem Klimov created the most disturbing and authentic war film ever made, according to many veterans. The film follows a young Belarusian boy who joins partisan forces against German occupation. Veterans appreciate the unflinching portrayal of warfare's effect on civilian populations. The movie shows the Holocaust in Eastern Europe through the eyes of a child soldier. Veterans praise the realistic depiction of partisan warfare and the brutal reality of occupation. The film's surreal imagery captures the psychological trauma of witnessing mass atrocity. Veterans consistently mention how the movie helped them understand the Eastern Front's different character from Western European warfare. The child actor's transformation throughout the film represents the loss of innocence in warfare. Veterans appreciate the film's refusal to glorify resistance or provide easy moral answers. The movie's reputation among film critics and veterans has grown over decades since its release. Veterans with experience in unconventional warfare specifically praise the realistic portrayal of guerrilla tactics. The film earned international critical acclaim and influenced subsequent war movies. Veterans recommend it with warnings about its emotional intensity and graphic content. These films didn't just entertain veterans, they spoke truth to their experiences. From the Pacific to Europe, from submarines to foxholes, real warriors found pieces of themselves in these stories. Notice something? The movie's veterans choose focus on small units, authentic details, and the psychological cost of warfare over big explosions and heroic speeches. Which of these films hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts below. And here's the real question that'll start some arguments. Do modern war movies actually make us more or less likely to understand what veterans really went through?